We're here in Laura, Australia, about 2.5 hours outside of Sydney in the Blue Mountains, just on the fringe of Blue Mountains National Park. And we're here about the Gary Tweddle story. Gary was a young man who was born in the UK, who worked for Oracle Corporation just outside of Sydney. He lived in a city called Cremorne. And he was here because his team of Oracle salespeople did a fantastic job the previous quarter and were invited up to an offsite here at the Fairmont Hotel. And on the 15th, Gary and his team left the Fairmont via cab. There were about 25 of them. And they went to downtown Laura to a restaurant called Silks, a restaurant that we were at last night. And Gary and his team partied, had a good time, ate great food. And they then left the restaurant, drove back here to the Fairmont. Gary went to his room, went downstairs, had a few more drinks. And then, as you're going to see, he walked up the street from the Fairmont up towards Sublime Point Road. He eventually walked, got lost, and we'll tell the rest of the story as it moves along. But in Gary's dad's words, he was a Bear Grylls type. He was in really good shape. He exercised regularly. He wasn't known to do drugs by family and friends. And he was the type of guy that did rock climbing in Scotland. So the Gary Tweddle story. Disappeared July 16th, 2013. Gary was with his buddies drinking downstairs here at the Fairmont, having a good time, celebrating a great quarter. Told his buddies that he was going to go outside and make a quick phone call. He took this walkway out to the parking lot. Follow me. Exited the Fairmont, came out here to the parking lot area, got on his phone and he called his girlfriend. What transpired at that point was that he apparently got into some disagreement with her. And he started to walk this track out of the parking lot into the darkness of the night.
I'm Patrick Mcdonald, and my wife Liz and I live about 900 meters, a little more than 900 yards from the Fairmont where Gary Tweddle was staying. And we're about 600 meters where ultimately they found Gary. From day one, we were involved with the people who were searching, and it appears that Gary must have walked right past our house on that early morning when he disappeared. So we were indirectly involved because of our proximity to the site here near the Fairmont. Well, I'm going to drive you down. We've started at the entrance to the Fairmont where Gary was last seen, and we're going to drive what seems to be his walking path, which would have been on Gary's right as he walked down here, but it would have been pitch dark, only occasional street lights. So this area is not a built-up area. It's a residential area next to the national park with only the occasional streetlight, and there are no footpaths, no sidewalks here. So Gary would have been walking alongside the road, and he's not going back to Lura or to Lura railway station. This is a dead-end road. And to the right, as you're filming now, is the last house. And the only other way he could have got to that house would have been to go through private property and what we call bush bash. That means push your way through heavy bush downhill to the trail, which seems extremely unlikely.
So we're at the dead end of Sublime Point Road. This is Sublime Point here. This is about 175 meters down to an absolutely gorgeous outlook, and this is the way people think Gary probably took his walk and disappeared. The reality of it is that this whole area in here is dead black at night. Not a lot to be seen, very hard to find trails, and the point you're going to see will stymie you in its beauty. 175 meters downhill to the point, pitch black. It's hard to believe anybody would go this far, but you're going to see what you end up with. So we're at Sublime Point right now, and behind me is an area called Sweet Dreams where Gary was found. Cliffy area, very difficult to get to, very difficult to see from many locations. And it's an area where other people have disappeared in the past that I've written about. What you're going to see in front of you is Blue Mountain National Park, a vast, vast canyon and plateau. And we will walk the trail down where Gary was found.
I'm standing now on the footpath about 150 meters from the end of Sublime Point Road. And behind me is the little unmarked dirt trail or track that leads to where presumably Gary would have gone off the cliff. Now imagine there's no light here. It's around 1 in the morning, pitch black, and someone has come down this concrete footpath and found this obscure little trail and gone off on it.
So there's a cliff area that runs along here, and there were helicopters flying the perimeter with FLIR looking for bodies.
Yes.
So 2 months after he disappears, there's a helicopter training team that's flying along the cliffs. And why don't you explain what happened?
Well, the way we were told is this team, and I understand there was a pilot and an observer, and they were on some other either training flight or business, and the observer pointed down to the Sweet Dreams cliff area and said to the pilot, do you think that's something they wanted us to find, that they threw a dummy down to see if we would spot it? And as they investigated, they realized that it was in fact Gary's body, and that was how it was found in an area that had been heavily searched, including many, many helicopter flights.
So in that 2-month period between the time he disappeared and the time he was found, would you think that there would have been rock climbers in that area?
Oh yes. As far as we know, on weekends and holiday periods, there are rock climbers, abseilers, and there are overflights by helicopters. There are other rescues going on. There are hospitals that transfer patients from hospitals out west into the city. However, as far as we know, it was just by chance that this helicopter, as you said, on some kind of a training flight spotted it. So it's a mystery why he wasn't found. Right now we're standing on the best part of a very obscure trail where we presume Gary would have had to walk in order to reach the cliff face. Both sides are, well, the downside is almost 45 degrees. The upper side is a little bit less steep. If you threw yourself off the trail, after 2 or 3 meters, you just get hung up in the bushes. It's hard to know how you could ever get 20, 30 meters to the cliff. This is the part of the trail near the plaque which you're going to see, which commemorates Gary. The trail, it deteriorates, and beyond the plaque, it actually does emerge on a side street, but in a place where it was absolutely almost impossible that a stranger would even know there was a trail there. And it's very, very rocky. There are roots. It's very rough. This is roughly the area where we presume that he fell from the cliff. It's very hard to know. The bushes are so thick here, how he could possibly have got to a cliff edge, which is about between 5 and 10 meters to my left. To my right, uphill, another maybe 100 to 200 meters would be the backyards, very thickly bushy, forested backyards of the houses on Sublime Point Road. So once again, it's very hard to understand how anyone here could have got to the cliff at 1 o'clock in the morning.
So this is the view from the trail where Gary disappeared. And what you're looking at directly across this small valley is the famous Three Sisters that's talked about in the Blue Mountains and is photographed millions of times. And you can see them, and we're standing on one side, the visitor center's on the other. It's almost coincidental that he disappears and his body is found in one of the most gorgeous places in all of Australia. And that's the view his body had. Very strange. Very strange.
We're standing on the cliffs at South Lura opposite Sublime Point, and behind me you can see Sublime Point to the extreme right. The point has people on it, and the film that Dave took previously was of us walking along the trail through that scrubby bush halfway between the cliff face and the houses above. So this is a panoramic view of the west side of Sublime Point, and towards the point side is Sweet Dreams.
What I'm filming right now is the emergency trail that was dug by search and rescue to bring Gary's body out. It is through absolutely thick, lush terrain. And again, it's so thick they couldn't bring the body out through the normal course of the bush. They had to make a special trail, which exemplifies how difficult it was to get through here. And the reality is that I don't think anybody could fall through this.